Okay, so we'll start with an acknowledgement to country. Nyunga Wajuk Puja. I know 3 words in Nyunga. Well, a few more words in Nyunga, but that's a good one. And their elders past and present, and their ongoing survival, basically. So just as an aside on that, one of my original jobs, I'm an anthropologist / archaeologist, all the ologist things. But one of my original jobs was a research officer with the West Australian Museum. And I worked a lot with elders all over the state. It was quite a privileged job. And a lot of the Nyungar elders, they're all past now, but this is before native title. And so in WA at that time, you could probably count 10 people who were strong in maintaining culture across the state. The elders who would ring up the WA Museum, the Sites Department, and push the cultural agenda. Most other people had sort of given up and moved on, and it was only after Mabo that people started to come back to it. And I was privileged to work with some of the Nyungar elders here in Perth, get their stories and the cultural landscape of the city. There's a burial on Supreme Court's gardens. Someone's great-grandmother's buried there. Where the Nyungar families lived around the city. So they're all knowledge, it's in the records, but that was knowledge that I was exposed to in working with the Wajuk Nyungars. And the most important thing there is that the fact that they have continued, so Nyungar people have continued to assert their presence and are, this is their country. So very privileged and proud to be here today, acknowledging those elders that I knew, the elders before them, and the elders that are there today, who have taken up that like a relay stick or a message stick and continue to maintain and retain that identity of Nyungar people in this wonderful city. So that is my acknowledgement. I might invite Mr. Goha to come up and as our host here at the Waalitj Foundation. So please.
Thank you, Kado. Amazing acknowledgement. I too acknowledge the traditional owners of this land, the Wajuk Noongar people, and pay my respects to past, present, and emerging leaders. I always say, as part of my acknowledgement, that I'm grateful for them to welcome a Yamatji man from Midwest to not just live over here but thrive. Use the land, allow my family and my kids to grow up over here. So their welcoming and allowing me on their country is a privilege. So thank you. With that, obviously, I like to welcome everyone and Honourable Minister to the foundation itself. The foundation, just to touch base on it, Early Days has been in presence for 19 years. Next year, we'll be celebrating 20 years. And throughout that 20 years, we've touched on the lives of probably thousands of Aboriginal kids, families and people, right? Making the difference that we want to make and the difference we want to see. And of that success, we've seen the hub come into play in the last 5 years, where we've seen a number of businesses become successful. And Dilji, and Kado with his team is a success that we want to see grow, because in the success of Kado's business and the application sits the success of many other people across the state, telling their stories and other bits and pieces. So I do, it's great being here and, seeing the growth of this business. And we want to be part of that journey and supporting Kado with that. Just in terms of some housekeeping, in an event of an emergency, hopefully none, but if we need to exit, we'll go through the doors right up here and walk up the stairs. You can follow my lead or any other Waalitj Hub person. And in terms of, I guess, if anyone wants to see the loos and go there, ladies straight out on the left and men's down the hall. And in terms of if you're hungry, we've got the kitchen right next door. So please feel free to jump on, get a coffee, tea, and the lovely spread that Kate and the team has put together. Thank you.
Well,
oh, sorry. Apologies, I didn't know that. I'd like to call upon the Minister to say a few words. Thank you.
Thank you. Unlike these two accomplished gentlemen, I need notes, particularly because Kado's accomplishments are many, and I've had a few of them pointed out to me. But I too would like to acknowledge that we're on Wajak Budja and pay my respects to elders past and present, and all senior knowledge holders. Kado, if you need to sit while I'm, feel free to, we could play musical chairs. And I'd also like to acknowledge Diva and Ambi who are here today as well. We know with well-accomplished people that it becomes a family sport, and you can't sort of do anything without the support of your family. So it's really lovely to see you all here today. So for more than, as we all know, for more than 60,000 years, West Australian Aboriginal people have managed the country for productivity. In the face of changing climates and variable seasons, they have developed catalogues of bush foods and medicines, shared language and culture through unique education and storytelling systems, and developed a deep understanding of ecological relationships, systems and processes. This has all been embedded in the story, song and landscape. The launch today of Dilji Labs is an example of how ancient knowledge and cutting-edge technology can connect to support growth, learning and economic opportunities for Aboriginal people. It also provides an opportunity for everyone to respectfully connect and learn from over 60,000 years of wisdom to help us solve some of the biggest challenges facing the world today. Mr. Kado Muir, founder of Dilji Labs, and it seems like possibly 120 so other endeavours, is a technology entrepreneur and innovator working in regional WA. You are a respected cultural custodian and traditional knowledge holder for the Ngal, please, as I'm learning, Nagalia?
no.
No.
Yeah.
No. Thank you.
As in Sydney.
Perfect. Thank you. And there will be others that I'll probably need some guidance with as well. Dialect family of the Mamutjitji. There we go. Thank you. I always like to learn. Language group with traditional territorial ties in the Western Deserts. Mr. Muir has a long-standing commitment to culturally responsive education. He has developed education resources and reference materials that promote your language and cultural knowledge to the rest of the world and improve outcomes for Aboriginal students in your community and beyond. Dilji Labs, a division of Dilji Corporation, was established in 2022 and is run by Mr. Muir. Located in Leonora in regional WA, Dilji Labs produces innovative education technology for young people. It is committed to inclusive education experiences for Aboriginal people. A demonstration of the commitment is the recently launched Mamutjitji, fantastic, thank you, Story App in both Ngalia and English. Thank you. The app features a short animation telling the Dreamtime story of the Mamutjitji artwork, interactive puzzles and teacher's notes. This content is linked to the WA science curriculum, and I'll be downloading it when I get home for my two boys. So I'm very excited by that. Importantly, technology allows Dilji Labs to operate from locations anywhere in Australia and internationally, supporting access in our most remote locations. It focuses on sustainable development goals for remote Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people around Australia. Welcome. Mr. Muir must be commended for his passion and drive to keep the Ngalia language alive for family and community and for providing us with an opportunity to connect with and learn your language and knowledge. Innovative digital technologies like the Mamutjitji Dreaming App and elders to share language and culture across generations through immersive experiences independent of graphic locations, is incredibly important. Aboriginal ownership of the means, process and design of these educational technologies ensures that Indigenous intellectual and cultural property is held by traditional owners, and that communities and knowledge holders control what and how cultural knowledge is shared. And I cannot express the importance of that. It is a priority of the Department of Education to support the creation of culturally responsive schools that build on the strengths of Aboriginal students, engage them in learning, and enable them to thrive academically and socially. Building mutually respectful relationships with local community is fundamental to the engagement of every student. The Department's Aboriginal Cultural Standards Framework supports schools to strengthen culturally responsive practices and approaches when working with Aboriginal students, parents, families, communities and organisations. Our Caring for Country Together sustainability framework supports the development of culturally responsive approaches to sustainability across curriculum, operations and infrastructure. The Department's Aboriginal Languages program recognises that Aboriginal languages and Torres Strait Islander languages are the original languages of Australia, and many are critically endangered. The Department is committed to continuing these languages by teaching them in public schools across the state. There are almost 10,000 public school students learning Aboriginal languages across 68 schools. My two boys are two of those 10,000, and they teach me quite a bit of Noongar, and it's an amazing change, a generational shift from when I was at school. Each of the 24 languages taught in schools is unique to country. We know that languages connect people with country, with each other, and to ways of seeing and interpreting the world in the past, the present, and the future. The Department's Ngapaji, thank you, two-way science program delivers training and support for WA schools to develop and implement two-way science teaching and learning programs. Digital literacy is vital for all. For First Nations people, it will ensure their cultural heritage is preserved for future generations and their voices are heard. It enables communities to document and share languages, stories and traditions through digital platforms. Digital literacy equips us all with the skills to advocate for rights, engage in political processes, and connect with a global audience, fostering greater understanding and important solidarity. The presence of Dilji Labs in the digital technologies education landscape further fosters Aboriginal leadership, reconciliation, and Indigenous economic opportunities. Mr. Muir's commitment to the development and delivery of culturally responsive education resources, both individually and through your work of Dilji Labs, is invaluable. It provides so many exciting opportunities for innovation and the engagement of Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal students in improving digital capability and learning about the culture and country on which they live. When young people take pride in their language and culture, they develop a strong sense of identity and self-confidence that empowers them to achieve their potential. This fosters resilience and ambition, enabling Aboriginal students to navigate the complexities of the modern world and with a confident and optimistic outlook. By valuing heritage, we not only honour elders past and present, but also contribute to a vibrant and diverse global community, positioning Aboriginal students such as Ambi as future leaders and innovators. Again, I am proud to be here on behalf of Minister Booty and the Cook Labor Government to help launch and celebrate Dilji Labs here at Waalitj. Thank you.
Oh, should we do a shoot? Do you want a photo of us shaking hands?
Oh, look at you, you're like a professional. It's not your first rodeo. Yeah.
Few rodeos and often getting bucked off.
Good relate.
Good, beautiful. Thank you, Minister. That was a great message you brought. And it just reminds us all that we can't have silos. We've all got to be working together. And what's important, which is basically our younger generations and us being able to guide and shepherd them on their journeys. So thank you. So we'll go through the little presentation. Start with acknowledging the family contributions, particularly my parents, who my father recently passed. So still just come out of the mourning period for that. Of course, Diva, who is Amika calls it a motivation. I'm the inspiration, she's the motivation. But Diva's also the inspiration, because one of the things that Diva points out is we all need to follow our joy. And once you let go of all the shackles and the pressures of life and aspire to joy, we're all aligned with that. So that's part of our business purpose, is following joy. Thank you for Diva for reminding us all that's where we need to focus. Talbot, my brother, and Zabar, who I didn't, he's in other family. Talbot, because Talbot wrote the book, the Mamutjitji book, the original little book. We're always, Talbot and I in particular, Zabar as well, we always go back to the school in Leonora and see how we can help and contribute. And way back in 2004, Talbot was helping with the language classes, and he wrote a little 10-page book to document the Dreamtime story that our mother taught us, and shared that in the classroom. Mapping this journey, we come to Kyle and Kuberan, who's not here. So that was my son Kathy, who wandered in fashionably. Kuberan and Kyle basically took Talbot's stories, put some artwork to it, and it was a project pre-Waalitj, I think, with MEDAC at the time. So it's part of that the late, employment sort of program. So Kyle in particular, we had him sort of working on one of the projects there, and that's the work that we've been doing with MEDAC and Waalitj over time in the community, is trying to make these employment programs exciting and fun. And so Kyle came to us, and he started to digitise Talbot's drawings. Kuberan, who's a whiz on computer graphics, digital design, pulled it all together. And of course, the many other families. So we're a collective, and acknowledging some of the family here, Auntie Joyce and Brother Neville. Yeah. So these, and absolutely, Zabar, who Neville goes prospecting with often in the bush, so that's their downtime and fun time. The beauty of living out in our country. All of these journeys is basically our families not always see eye to eye, but we're in it together in various forms. So acknowledging them. In this journey, we've built up a list of partners. The Leonora School, obviously, I don't know how they take it. We come up, we got an idea, we'll come and work with you guys. So the school's got this massive big murals, and even Brenton C. Some of you have probably heard of Brenton C. He's a popular mural artist here in Perth. Brought him there. The latest mural is Kuberan doing, goodness, I don't know how big it is, a massive big mural at the school. The Shire of Leonora, Perth Media, so acknowledging Kate over here, who you've all probably had contact with by now, otherwise you wouldn't be in the room. And some of the local companies, MLG, Waalitj Cultural Centre that Diva spearheads. It was her task from Mum to set up the Waalitj Cultural Centre. Ngalia Heritage Research Council. So in our over the years, so we've been doing this stuff for 40, 50, maybe many more years before that. But the Ngalia Heritage Research Council Aboriginal Corporation is where all of our Ngalia Indigenous cultural and intellectual property sits. So it's a registered charity, it's a Aboriginal corporation, and it holds all of that intellectual property. From there, then we spin out into art projects, app projects, books, whatever it is. So that's a model that we'll share as time goes by and we build on our activities. One of the local mining companies, Glencore, has helped with travel and other just little nitty-gritty stuff that you need. CSIRO, of course, largely we carry over from Dave Bruin over here, and but also the new relationships we're building with the likes of Humera and Jade. Yes. And of course, Waalitj. So, we're here hosted by Waalitj. It's a entrepreneur's hub to help people get busy and do stuff, be productive, take action. And Kiwa Digital, well, more about them later, but they're a Maori business based in New Zealand. And so Dilji and Kiwa have a transatlantic business relationship, partnership. And I'll talk more about that as we go along. Does that look like me? Yes, okay. Kate. Yeah, I do a few things. I don't crow too much about it, but these are some of the things I am do. Currently chair of the National Native Title Council, who you may or may not have heard of, but we support and help the nearly 200, 300 PBCs across Australia, about 12 rep bodies, those sort of things. So that's the advocacy. Rights-based, focus on rights and advocate for a better life. The co-founder of First Nations Clean Energy Network, which is currently working with the federal government on clean energy policies and trying to, so not telling too many secrets, but in one of the dual companies, Dual Kado Power, which Joyce and Vanita and myself were in, we were sitting down with the government agency yesterday talking about a massive infrastructure project that the government's looking at doing. What we bring into it is say, if you want to design this project, we've got to be at the very beginning. We don't want to be consulted, we don't want jobs, we don't want training. We have to be at the very beginning, and the point that we made there, even at the crafting of the financial product that actually funds these projects. So let's go hand in hand, federal, state government and Dual or the Aboriginal business, go hand in hand to the federal government and get them to rewrite the rules on finance products, on tax treatment, all of those sort of things. So that's the scope of opportunities, and they're the sort of things that we're talking about in Dual. For myself, I had a long-term tech interest. So the story of how I get to be here is, as a young Aboriginal man who is culturally grounded and aligned, first stage of your life, you'd have to do what your elders tell you to do. So I spent, pretty much up to this point, doing what my elders told me to do. Now that most of my elders have passed away, I start to get into the space of being able to do my interests and my things. And so in that way, one of my interests was, I was the proud owner way back when in the 80s of a Tandy TRS 80. Any nerds in the room? You know what a Tandy... This is like one of the very first personal computers before Apple, before Microsoft personal computers. So built by Tandy Electronics. And I had to make, back in those days, I was only about, 12, to make that computer work, you actually had to write your own programs. So I learned how to do BASIC, which is a computer language. Then Windows came in with all their purpose-built programs, so all you need to do is plug and switch it on and don't have to write any programs anymore. So I went away from that and got lazy and got involved in politics and all these other things. But that's where I'm coming back, getting a reset. Okay, let's go back and see what we can do. And track record of successful delivery of major projects. I'll put that down to Kate, but I think I mentioned to the minister out there, yes, I'm busy, I'm doing stuff, but it's stuff that needs to be done. And as Liam Neeson says, you have a particular set of skills. And so that's what I've got, those particular set of skills, and one of those is to bring people together and let's work on amazing stuff. So there's photos of my parents, mum and dad. What they did was come together and with mum's elders and her contemporaries. One of mum's elders is Auntie Joyce's father. They started to pull together in the Ngalia Heritage Research Council some of our knowledge. The song lines, so the Yakabindi, the big song line that travels through Jiwal country. We were able to work with the elders at that time to preserve it because all this was getting lost. And so that then leads now to us in Jiwal country being able to create artworks on the dragonfly. So Claire over here from Liontown, they have this massive big camp that's in the shape of a dragonfly. The place that it's situated in is woman's country, and it's aligned with the dragonfly dreaming. So that's how a lot of this legacy work from my parents has supported our articulation of our connection to country, and it's being manifest in mining projects, in artworks, all those sort of things. So the story of Dilji Labs, Dilji group of companies, so I've got a few in that area. We do a number of different projects, and so I started in 2022. Dilji Labs itself started in June 2024 when I went across to the Super AI conference in Singapore, listening to Mark Rabot talk about Boston Dynamics. And, Boston Dynamics, they're the ones that make those little robot dogs. So, and Atlas, the big robot. So I was thinking, so he had a lab. That's what he calls it. Okay, I'll call it Dilji Labs, and let's see where we can take it. So we might even, my friend over here, Alana, who I had met a few years back, we were talking about those bebots, the little robots that kids can build in schools. So it's those sort of things. There's a lot of good, exciting stuff out there that we can work with. So yeah, Dilji Labs. This is a photo of the Gawlia in Leonora. Do a number of different projects. There's a lot of, and this is the thing, the opportunity out there in the region. We do have some of the biggest companies in the world operating in our country. They're busy. They're flat out doing things. So it's up to us to go out there and disrupt them and invite them to join us on our journeys. So that's, and this is the thing, because it's, when you're all finished here, you'll probably go down to the museum and stitch a rug together. So we've got the Reclaim the Void project going at the museum at the moment. But part of that reclaiming the void is not only in the earth, but in the hearts. And projects like this, what I hope to inspire is that, yes, we need mining. We need mining to be responsible. We need mining to be accountable. We need mining to be beneficial, not only in the cash flow, but in the products, and be open to conversations on how we, the state, so the state holds the minerals in trust for the people, and they license the miners to take it out and extract it and generate revenue. But end of the day, those benefits need to flow back to the people. And so that's the, I suppose, economic sort of philosophy around which I'm trying to proceed with this business. So Dilji Labs, engaging children with Indigenous languages through technology. I missed the numbers, but there's quite a good set of numbers going on there in terms of 24 languages being taught.
Yeah, 26, I think, actually.
26?
10,000 students, yeah.
10,000 students, that's brilliant. It shifts. So many years I did cultural awareness training. I still do a little bit, but you have the old Kiwi and the modern New Zealander, the white fellas. The old Kiwi is like a crusty old Australian, usually grumpy, white male, blah, blah, blah. The young blokes who've come up out of the Te Reo language programs, they're switched on. They've got another language. They're connected with culture, the community, all of that sort of stuff. So it'd be great for us to be able to have that experience here in Western Australia. We're the same population pretty much as New Zealand. Why can't we do it? So that's the opportunity. So basically we pulled together a showcasing of Edtech. So that's the focus. I'll just keep moving through that because that's our vision, is bridging the past, present, primary school education that we can bring products in. Because basically, again, teachers, you're out there, you're basically, oh goodness, what was that thing you had that you had to report nationally on standards, whatever it was, there was something. NAPLAN. Those sort of things, you're looking over your shoulder for the NAPLAN monster who's coming in after you. All those sort of things. And I just see it as a responsibility as a member of the community, as one who plays in business to form these partnerships. Let's work together. Let's free up some of your time. So if you can download something that has cultural content, that has the elders' input, all that sort of stuff, and make it as easy as possible for a teacher to deploy it in the classroom, that's our job. And let's try and make that happen. So, yeah, I've left that up there long enough. I'm not going to read it all because there's a lot of words. But our goal is to spark curiosity and encourage children to explore and respect different perspectives using modern digital platforms. And that's the ultimate goal of creating an inclusive society for future generations. So that it's not just Ngalia or Aboriginal and all of that. As you can see, you might have noticed Dad is white. Did anyone notice that? Dad is white. He's a sixth generation Australian. Left home at 15 to become a stockman and droving and working out on the remote parts of Australia. He just basically became immersed in Aboriginal law and culture. So prior to that, he had no connection. And his life journey basically saw him rise to the ranks of a very senior lawman under traditional law. And that's the thing, is that Aboriginal culture is not exclusive in that way. You come in, you follow the rules and the protocols and all of that. You can also experience that law and culture and custom, because that culture is basically open. It's just, it's like a philosophy and a knowledge system, and that's been the divide. So in learning some of the language, that's the first step in accessing. So the problems to be solved, these are it. Risks of losing Indigenous languages and culture. Disrupted schooling. So a lot of our kids come, vote with their feet, leave. So how can we keep them there, at those key developmental stages? And they lack that contextually engaging Indigenous content. So contextually, most important. And that's the focus. So what we're looking at doing, our solution, let's come up with these apps. Everyone's got an app, everyone's got a phone, let's come up with an app. One of the apps we came up with is the Mamutjitji Story, which you can download from at the App Store or Google Play. We launched it on May 17, which so happens to be Diva and Kate's birthday. So that was my birthday present to both. Although Diva did sneak a burnt Basque cheesecake back to Leonora from a cafe here in Perth and handed that to Kate for her birthday. We all love burnt Basque cheesecakes. I didn't know about them until recently, but wow. So the proof of concept had a pretty good reception. This is two-way science, language, knowledge, integrated into. So the goal is to integrate into schools. At this point in time, it's this will be free forever. It's a labour of love. It's people come together, put all their energies and efforts in. Let's deliver this, and it's a proof of concept. I think there is a video hiding there. Maybe not.
It's on your. It's
Video hiding here.
What these students are up to might not look that out of the ordinary, but in fact they're doing something that no other kids in the world are doing. They've been chosen to test out an app called Mamutjitji Story.
The app we've designed is based on a Dreamtime story, which we've held and known about since I was a child, and it's been part of our language group for thousands of years.
The Mamutjitji Story is about hairy creatures called Mamu and the kids who stood up to them, which became little insects which we call Mamutjitji or antlions.
Well, the app is to bring this Dreamtime story into our contemporary experience and understanding, so that people now can actually experience what I have experienced as a child growing up in the bush.
It's a way to teach kids about science while connecting with their culture.
When there's been a lot of rain, we go out bush and we look at what some pathways.
It is important to go back because there's lots of education in Yana way, in Western way. So we still need children to learn both ways, in our ways too.
But the app is also really important because it uses both English and Ngalia, an Indigenous language that only 3 people in the whole world still speak and understand. One of those speakers is the app's creator, Kado Muir.
It's very important to me the work that my parents, who've now passed on, have done. My brothers and I are carrying on that tradition today.
There are more than 250 Indigenous languages in Australia, including around 800 dialects that have been spoken for tens of thousands of years. There used to be even more languages, but after colonisation, many were lost. Government policies split up family groups, and in many cases, First Nations people were discouraged or even banned from speaking their language. Today, around 90% of surviving Indigenous languages are considered critically endangered, which means not many people speak them, and there's a danger of them disappearing. Which is why a lot of people around Australia are working to make sure that doesn't happen. And young people are playing a huge role in that.
Welcome to Kado Muir.
Online, at home, and in classrooms. Just by learning, these kids are making sure that languages like Ngalia survive and can be taught to kids in the future.
We need that more in school so kids could learn in both worlds, English and language. And language is important too.
Yeah, so, oops, better get out of there before it goes on to the next one. Where was I? Well, that didn't go smoothly as I had. Oh, there you go.
Okay, so our Edtech methodology is data capture, creating an artistry, designing and development, and then the delivery, which I'll go through what's involved. So here, data capture of stories, whether it's connections to country, Dreamtime stories, family histories, that sort of stuff. Doing it in a way, so, my background, I'm an anthropologist, so very clear on how that capture occurs, but also respecting the cultural protocols. There are rules around how knowledge can be transferred and to who that knowledge is transferred. And that's really the obligations of the elders. So what's happening, dynamics of our community is the Aboriginal population and Torres Strait Islander population is a pyramid. So elders up the top here are outnumbered, 5, 10, 20 to 1. They find it impossible to be able to fulfill their obligations to pass on knowledge and culture to the younger generation. So that's what we aim to do here in Dilji Lab, set up a program or a process of working with communities, whether it's language centres, cultural heritage providers, those sort of places, ranger groups, wherever the language resides and they want to communicate that. Do it in ways that meet their obligations, respects their protocols, and but the most important is before it's too late, documenting that knowledge. Then you take that knowledge, bring it into an art centre or with artists, because all the Aboriginal art out there is based on knowledge, connection to country, stories, all of that. That's the medium of telling stories. Waalitj had a great art show. Again, when you go this room, if you're not going to go to the museum, go to Central Park and look at the 11 artists from Waalitj that are featured at the exhibition currently on at Central Park. But in this way, work with artists, linguists to generate the artwork. So, we want things to look beautiful, like me. This shirt, for instance, Diva bought this for me from Broome, Aboriginal women in Broome making shirts like this. So we should be all wearing it. Design and development, that's the next thing. So at the moment, we're outsourcing. I'm talking to India, we've got the partnership with Kiwa Digital, all of that, but wouldn't it be great if we had our own little hub sitting here with our Aboriginal kids, non-Aboriginal kids, all together working on exciting projects and building these innovations here or in Leonora or wherever, because that's the beauty of it. You can work from wherever. You work from the moon if you've got the power and the oxygen. And then the delivery. So I suppose one of the things you probably would have noticed, everyone thought Kado was a troublemaker 2 months ago. Today, everyone thinks Kado's a tech guru. Largely thanks to Kate over here, who is part of, and Emma, of course, who gave me, Emma led to me being cartoon. I'm a cartoon now. And apparently when you get to be a cartoon, you've made it.
Oh.
Caricature. I still haven't put that on my LinkedIn profile yet, though. But yeah, the delivery, it's getting that message out there. And that's what this event is. It's the communication to keep pushing the story, and hopefully we can, somebody else might take up an idea and create something, and that'd be great. Just a bit of background to get to where we are, a lot of words again, but we had an agreement signed with the Federation of Maori Authorities. They're the equivalent of the National Native Title Council in New Zealand. They came across to Australia looking at how Australian science agencies, CSIRO, I do the Geoscience Australia and all of those guys, because they're public institutions. They're organisations there to serve us. And a lot of Aboriginal people have self-excluded themselves from these organisations. We got to get in there, and engage. So this year is quite an important document. It's the Indigenous Trans-Tasman Strategic Alliance Agreement. And so this Mamutjitji app is possibly the first international agreement-based trade relationship set up between Dilji and Kure Digital. Kure Digital, by the way, you check them out. They are all over the world. An Indigenous business based in New Zealand. They do. They've got a technology that makes dubbing, so dubbing full-blown movies with Indigenous languages. So they do some really great work. Stephen Renata's the MD over there. Our alignment, so every business should be thinking about these things. So first of all, we're in the International Decade of Indigenous Languages. We've all got to be doing our part to help languages. Apparently you're not supposed to do that, so don't tell United Nations. But what we're looking at with Dilji and Dilji Labs is an alignment with the society and economy parts of these Sustainable Development Goals. And there we've identified 6. And as a business, the United Nations saying, this is what we need. Communities are saying, this is what we need. So as an entrepreneur in a business, let's go and fill those needs, help them out. Bring along those partners out there who are so busy, head down 400 kilometres of tunnels, bring them out and come out and join and do some of these things. So that's our alignment. Future state. Time to embrace Aboriginal content in schools. It's happening. It's challenged though, because there's not enough of it. There's not enough content out there to meet the needs. So that's what we need to be doing. We want our kids to stay at school, learn, and be part of a experience that sees them to completion. So engaging, keeping them there, and completing. So what are the things that we can do to make that happen? This is one attempt, one approach. That's a little bit of words. I won't read it all. So next steps, and there you see, Diva loves a good whiteboard. Who loves a good whiteboard here? Nearly everyone. So there we go, we've got a whiteboard, we've got our next project, the Mingari and Chilkamara Jogurpa, the Mountain Devil and the Echidna. This will blow your mind, okay? So, arithmetics, we got 3 numbers, Kojo, Kojara, Marnkorpa. And then lots, or maybe Kojara, or Kojo. That's my maths. Then we have our skin groups. And in our skin groups, we've got relationships. So skin groups, 2 things going on. Transference of DNA, genetic mapping, basically. So skin groups are about marriage relationships. Then, I think it's Chris Matthews. Is that his name? Yeah. An Aboriginal man who's a professor of mathematics. He's doing some work with Yolngu people. Their skin groups are like, rocket science. We only have 6, so we're right. But some groups only have 4. But on those levels, he's mapping out relational mathematics. And we had, Ambika was a brief time a teacher's aide at Leonora Primary School, and her little niece come in there, and teachers sort of going, she's struggling and all of that. But when you get onto relationships, she can beat anyone in the whole school. It's just a different way of learning, and a different. So our job is to try and translate that and make it relevant, contextual. So these are next steps. Services, we're open to services, we're open to partnerships, we're open to sponsorship. Partnerships, we come on the journey. We can deliver. You guys, some of you are from companies, you're looking at, our sustainability budget is this. Go across to your marketing department. Your marketing department's probably got more money than Trump. And you go to the marketing department and you partner up with us. Just as our numbers on the Mamutjitji Story, I didn't know media monitors do this, but this is why you have people like Kate who know these things. So ASR, what's advertising space rate. So the investment of $10,000 for one of our sponsors has the equivalent of $1.2 million worth of advertising spacing rate. They got it pretty cheap. But that's the ways, this is the business model, is find partnerships, work together, put it out there, see what are their drivers and the imperatives. So on the one hand, yes, sustainability. On the future state where we want people who are switched on, can engage, be included, because that's the key. If you're included, you're going to give it all. If you're excluded, you're just going to go, well, that's not my problem. So included, and basically coming together in the story. So that's the service, our business models, services, partnerships, let's work together, or sponsorship. Sponsorship, you can get, be part of that. And there's that. We've got, for us, based on Ngalia, we've got 5 stories in the pipeline, ready to go. Mingari and Jilgamata app is one of them, because that's 2 things that happen in the dream time, okay? You have Emu Man bring the skin groups. The Emu Man come from up near Broome. So the dinosaur footprints, Emu track. And he come down, walking down country, and because before that, so here, this is science, chaos. Chaos theory. Before order, there was chaos. That's the Jogurba. In chaos, Jogurba, there was chaos. Some of these ancestral beings brought order. And Emu Man was one of them. He brought the skin groups. Some places he handed out, he was energetic and fit. Oh, how lively. 24 different skin names. Until eventually he come to my country, getting tired. Okay, you guys have 6. Split everybody up. Next door neighbours, you only got 4. Others down to 2. So that's that. Then along come poor old Echidna and the mountain devil, the little thorny devil lizard. They fell in love with each other, but they were the wrong skin group. And so their story starts in Coolgardie, travels out into the desert and back around into Jewel country near Agnew and finishes up at Weibo. They were hiding away from their family and friends because they had eloped illegally. Eventually got captured and speared, put to death, and turned into Echidna and Mountain Devil. All the spears are on the back of the Echidna. Mountain Devil got it all, but she also got whacked on the head by a wana, woman's digging stick and fighting stick. Knocked down, big lump on the back of the neck. And so we've got some of the creative content on this already. We're shaping it up. We did a project with an artist called Sohan Ariel, who some of you may know. He's the guy that lit up Kings Park. So in that creation space, there's some really talented people. So that's our little brainstorming on the whiteboard. This is the
Cuma ngana cukur batano. Mingare tirka mara pula wan ngi dara betano. Korea nyenango ngoranga pula minga kutta wal bengal kunai. Pula wana no minga nango tawano ngalango uyaringo. Paano na? Oops, don't want to see that. So, that's what happened to that other slideshow. But we're right at the end now, so that's all right. We'll just click over here.
So if you want to keep in touch, if you don't have my details, you know this function on LinkedIn? Some of you do. You go to your LinkedIn thing and you swipe, and you can get a QR code for your LinkedIn address. So, yeah, that's it. Any questions or comments or funding proposals?
Just to say that it's a free source app, which is quite something.
Sorry?
It's free source, yes.
Yeah, so it's free.
Quite admirable.
Free to download, yeah. That's part of the commitment. We want people to engage. Obviously, we've got to be aware of how to monetize because can't do everything for free. But this is the demonstration, the pilot project of what's possible. And you can all download it at Google Play and App Store, Mamutjitji Story. Yeah. Any other thoughts, questions? Mr. Bruin, you got anything to say?
Lots of thoughts, Kado. Very exciting.
Yeah.
Is the plan to sort of connect across with other language groups and
Yeah.
sort of keep growing with that way?
It's in that data capture side, so you got to get all the relationships right, culturally, all that sort of stuff. But we're also, our method is also to be able to deliver a service. So somebody might want to build something, they don't want it in our thing, but we can help them do it. Yeah. So that's the opportunity on. Yeah.
Kado, you do a lot of, I guess, regional work, cultural awareness training on country. I've got 2 boys. This sort of thing is really exciting to be able to see it on in their hands. Is there going to be, or could you foresee the ability to take them out on a camp or to be able to go and visit and get that tangible touching of it? Maybe not at my children's age, which is 9 and 6, but as a bit older, to be able to connect them with in real life, I think. From a monetary perspective, I would happily send my children on a camp to see that.
So that's one of the, so we do have a sponsorship package, and they're one of the outcomes in the, obviously there's different rates, but what do we call it? The platinum rate. You come out and spend 2 nights in country, 3 days on country. We did this with a company in the room. I can see someone here. And there's a great video they made of me where I, first time in years, I threw a spear and hit the target. Made it look like, oh yeah, this is easy. And my brother Talbot was it's his spear, he makes spears. But yeah, we have been doing over the years various projects, like 7 for 7 years. It was part of a campaign, but we have the capability to cater for up to 100 people around a campfire kitchen in the bush. And so in that one we led a campaign where we walked 300 kilometres every year for 7 years in the bush. And with the rug making camp, how long has that been? That's 5 years or something. We've been having 2 camps out in the bush on that. So it's happened. We haven't promoted it too much, but yeah, absolutely, it is an essential part of that partnership, that cultural connection, and that experience. Yeah. Anyone else?
No, yes, I like your idea, like to show the language, because I am obviously not Australian, I am Chilean originally, and I like this idea of mixing or showing in English and in your language, which I forgot. I had seen your app, I have it in my cell phone, but it's good to understand a little bit more what is going on in Leonora. I work in Leonora, and how Leonora needs more help from the companies and the society and the community, really. So, yeah, thank you so much for showing and inviting me today as well.
Thank you. And you and Flo know each other?
No, today, I met today.
So she starts Indigenous Women in Mining and you start Women in Mining.
But, different.
You haven't met.
But
I'm still learning Spanish.
Yeah.
So just on that, these two
We can have
do some really great, exciting, and you've also got a book that you.
Yeah, I wrote a book, and the second one will be in Pilbara, related to Pilbara, so maybe we can do something in the future and connect some ideas, have some discussion. That's right.
Anyone else? Or?
Yeah. I'm just thinking Alan Finkel has his style education, science, and he's been a big supporter of Indigenous language, so we should follow up with our former chief scientist. I don't know, Kado, I'm sure you've met him, but I think he would be a really good. And the other one that comes to mind is Will I Am. When I was in the Livers Academy, we hosted him, and he talks about being a tech and doing a lot on education across California.
Yeah.
And so I think he'd be really inspired by this too. So there's two, that level that also I think it would link in with what you're trying to do really well and resonate. So there's the top levels that might just, be another way to think about it.
Yeah, because that's one of the approaches I've had from Indigitize AI, which is a Indigenous-focused science program in the US. And what attracted them to the comment I made, which is, doesn't matter where you are, if you're Indigenous, you can engage with technology. And so those relationships, I think, is quite critical. And
I've got Will's business manager, so Sally, I just think because he's really also about empowering, he recognises how important education is for him.
Yeah.
So I think it'd be some really nice business.
Cool, yeah.
Worth a try.
Yeah, no, totally. Because I know he'd met Nyari Morgan and Curtis Taylor a few years back at Davos. Yeah, so that's cool. Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, I was going to say something as well. It's nice to see that you're connecting the SDG goals. I think that's often where you see companies find that disconnect with how they can engage with community. So it's good to see that. I know many of the corporates would be much more familiar now how to connect and work with community groups. So that's super exciting. And I'm curious to understand how you do bring this globally, because I know there's a lot of Indigenous communities globally as well that could use this tool to be a conversation starter for not only education but some of our social challenges as well that we have. So it'd be a really great tool.
Yeah, no, and that's the first answer is one day at a time and one app at a time. Yeah. But it's about generating that energy and that excitement and that buzz. So hopefully, there are other people out there who get inspired, and then we build those alignments. Yeah. Ground rules are the essential thing. So it's not about exploitation or extraction, and that's why you need that alignment with the SDGs. SDGs remind us all of what's important globally. Some of the work we've done at Duo, I think Annie Joyce was on the board at the time, we have the Dual Sustainability Framework. And that, from a community, that's our driver. That says, okay, this is what we see as important for sustainability. All of our interactions with third parties, whether it's government or industry, where do you fit And so, you know, that's a message I'd be putting out to a lot of communities. Start thinking about that. There's resources out there, the SDGs, and you can develop your own as well, mirroring that. Thanks, Scott.
Yeah. So I come from a tech background as well and learned BASIC as a kid. So, and I noticed you outsourced the original app. And it was great to hear that you were hoping to bring that development in state. And I think as I'm recruiting, it's difficult to find people with technology backgrounds. It's still pretty marginalised, and it's very there's a very stereotypical, I guess, background of people that go into it. And my kids do tech at school, but they're not very excited about it. Have you had any thoughts as to how? And for me, from a diversity perspective, it comes from school. The same as we're going to start with kids, right? Have you had any thoughts about how we make technology more exciting and more interesting for our school kids?
First, we got Minister in the room. There are people in the room here today who are part of, what do you call them, tech schools? What were they called? You have schools. No, in the, Alana, you were in one of them. Digitech. Yeah, but I think some of what they're doing is in isolation. And that's the thing that we need to do, is go, okay, future of our state is not mindless extraction, but let's lift our awareness and our consciousness. And this whole thing about, so part of our responsibility is to generate that excitement around it. We're in the worst state in the world to do it, but also the best state in the world to do it, in that it's like a one pony town, mining industry. Our innovation part of what we do in Western Australia, right back to Surridge and all of that, we have some of the biggest and brightest minds anywhere in the world. We're not celebrating it, we're not promoting it. I think it's that sort of stuff. It's marketing and all of that, but it's also backing it up. And so what I'm hoping in my lab or elsewhere, we can start building that capability. So working with some of the schools, the Digitech schools, that, you know, primary kindy level, all the way through to make it cool to be in this space. And this is the new industrial era that we're going into. And part of our problem, West Australia, got a pulpit, I'm preaching now. Part of our problem is we stand Cottesloe Beach and we're looking, oh, we're the most isolated city in the world. Sydney's way over there. And then you turn around and you're in the time zone of the most populous, innovative part of the world, same time zone as Beijing, Singapore, all these hub of activity. And it's easier and quicker to get to Singapore than it is to get to Sydney. So that's the sort of stuff, I want to try and generate that conversation. We've got some really good initiatives going in WA, the Startup WA, West Tech Fest, the guy that invested into Zoom, Canva, Bill Ty, he comes here every year out of Silicon Valley. So that's, and you're innovation as well, aren't you?
No, I was.
You was?
No, just training and workforce development.
Right. But that's important too, because in the training and workforce development, who are our workforce? And that's the stuff that's really, that's maybe the underlying agenda. We want to all have our people engaged in the forefront of what's happening in the world. And we got some really cool stuff. Gilmore Aeronautics, for instance, they're basically a couple of brothers in Queensland who are basically building rockets to go into space. So it's possible. Anyone can do it. It's just a question of getting that alignment, getting that support and teamwork. So I'd be happy to, continue conversation on that and see if we can take it somewhere.
Okay, let's just building on what the guy said previously. Just one of the things was a really good message that you said, that you gave. How do you integrate this into the schools, especially with, like junior schools as well, not only high school focus, starting with apps like this and making the environment, a fruitful one where they become innovative in the space of actually designing as well. And it's not just, I remember my daughter was at school, it's always about coding, and they turn away from it because they find that not exciting. And this is maybe a more exciting way of doing it.
It's a much more exciting way to do it. And I think as well, it's about how you pitch it. So it's, so we've just finished off a massive consultative process for our new youth action plan. And there were thousands and thousands of young people who contributed to that. And what was really interesting is, in my generation when I was growing up and you were leaving school and you were asked, what do you want to do? Most of the people were like doctors. I want to be a doctor, I want to be a lawyer, I want to be, an engineer. And to be honest, mainly highly motivated by salary and social standing, right? Now it's gone completely the other way. All of these young people are saying, we just want a career with purpose. So it's how do you put the coding and tech into that place of purpose, and that's about the outcome. So it's about what you can do with that, which is fantastic apps like this, which are about the social inclusion and opportunity and knowledge sharing. So I think it's a bit like that. There's the growing tech space at the moment is cybersecurity, and so and there is a huge interest there. It's very different from this, but it's so can you get those people who are interested in that? If you get them to switch to development work, and it is it's about also the pedagogy. So it's how we teach our teachers to teach, right? So a lot of our teachers are knowledge of this academically, but not necessarily in the doing space and the outcome space. But I do think a lot of it is about changing the narrative to a career of purpose rather than a career of dots and dashes, which is what a lot of young people think that it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. In the room we have a global video game marketing expert.
Yeah.
Al, would you mind also contributing? And next to him is Matt Lewis, who runs the Emergence Creative Festival in Margaret River. So we hear some perspectives.
Yeah, people are like shy spotlight.
You're always in the back row.
I know. I think also just to add to it, and to what you, Kado, said as well, like, I left Perth to pursue video games, and I don't know, it would be cool to see that there is opportunity for you to do that here, and not be a state of just like, we only dig stuff from the ground. So I think if we change that perspective that you can do amazing stuff here, I think we'll inspire people to go, yeah, I can do video games as well, So maybe that could be a key too, to get people engaged in this.
Well, we'll keep my 12-year-old in the state, so I'd like to do that. He keeps, I'm trying to get him ethically hacking rather than hacking at the moment. So hopefully he'll be one of the people in this space. But yeah, and it is, so we are, like as a government, we're really, really hyper aware of our need to diversify. Mining will always be a part of our state. We have the resources, it absolutely always will be, but it does make us, I know that it gives us a lot of economic strength, but it actually makes us also really vulnerable and really volatile. So like when we're going through our budget process over, and it comes to like a real crunch 6 weeks, in this budget, we had about $6-7 billion less by the end of that 6 weeks than we did at the beginning. So that makes it like really, really difficult. That volatility in our primary market is really difficult to manage. And really the sort of the 3 most viable streams that we're seeing in terms of diversifying is clean energy. That's absolutely where it's at. Is our defence industry workforce, and it's technology. So it is something that we're really trying, that innovation space is something that we are really trying to drive because we know that we're going to need it. And all of those spaces are economically viable and with huge opportunities for growth in WA. So it is front of mind for us.
That's cool.
So we've got Emergence Creative Festival.
Jack and wait any longer. Well, thank you for the invitation, Kado, and thanks for having us, Kate.
I'm fortunate to be engaged in one of the state government's innovation hubs, and it was called the WA Creative Innovation Tech Hub. And if you could say that backwards, I'll get you a biscuit afterwards. But I was able to rename it thanks to Minister Dawson and call it CTV, which is essentially the Creative Tech Village. And the idea is to connect creatives, innovators across the state. And it's something I learned 10 years of Emergence created the festival, which was an under-the-radar festival of creativity where it was the anti-conference for those that thought digitally and differently. So it was all about collaboration. It was all about curiosity and the idea of at play, whether it's a kid or a geriatric teenager like myself, you get that opportunity to commercialise your purpose. So that 4-day experience that we had at Margaret River, I've been able to potentially translate into a working model. And I heard your story over there with Chile. I'm a muso, I'm a very bad bass player, but I love jamming and playing music. I can't read music, but when I play with an Argentinian or a Chilean or a New Zealand or a European muso on stage, Indigenous, that's another language. And I feel that just connecting people in a lab environment where you have experimentation and play, you end up with great outcomes. And sustainability and purpose is at the core. I think, Kate, you'd recognise from Emergence, here I go, I shouldn't have had that coffee. This year, the keynote speaker that resonated with the audience was a sustainable architect that was all about the circular economy. And whether it were techs, gamers in the room, but Mikhail, the gamification ideas of solving problems through gaming offer huge opportunities in medical tech, environmental sustainability.
Yeah. Just to say, like, Kado, I can see your stories being like fantastic for people outside of Australia to read, like when I was living in Europe and I was like saying, I'm from Australia, they were like, Aboriginal culture, that looks so cool, Dude, if you want to have a chat, we can have a talk about like trying to maybe get the app on like different platforms like Steam, etc. I think there's like, we've got some amazing stories in our region that the whole world doesn't even know exists, and I would love for them to hear it because they're beautiful.
And that's what I want to do. Let's talk. Let's get stuff happening.
I'll just throw one thing. There's so many great emerging Indigenous filmmakers. But the degrees of separation as well. I got a call from Screen West that there's a new Southwest filmmaker living in the region. I was watching his comedy sketches years ago. I just hadn't met with him. But then at footy the other week, I was playing his kid up at under 11s from under 9s with our local custodian on the side coaching our kids. So I think what you're doing is such a great thing to be part of. So congratulations.
Love it. Thank you. All right. All right.
Thank you, Kado. I really enjoyed what you've developed and the story of the human and the devil. And it got me thinking, as we're working on ICIP, data sovereignty, and our Data 61 team is working on AI on the data sovereignty and ICIP. So any issues related, please reach out and I can connect you where there is a risk of data, integrity or AI and integrity with the data. Please reach out to me and I can connect to you because that's the biggest risk. Especially when you go into the AI space with the Indigenous knowledge and the ICP and the data sovereignty sits within it. That's where the risk is because with the AI we can do anything. So we will build.
And that's the thing. The AI is as good as the data that goes into it.
Exactly.
And
so yes, please.
We've got to build the ethics and the rules around how the data is.
And I really like your discussion on the sustainability and the benefit sharing. That's also in the space of ethics. With organizations. So yes, please do discuss.
Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, thank you. And Donna.
I might talk to you later, but it was just about your thoughts on languages, like the teaching and sharing of your language on schools that aren't on Wonga country. What do you think about that? How do you make that happen? And if you think it's a thing you need to do, knowing that there are Wonga kids not on Wonga country.
Yeah. No, there's two parts of that. One is a whole fella in Roban who passed away, but he was a great cultural leader when I was a young bloke. And his comment was, you got to learn a language, any language, doesn't matter whose language it is, learn a language. You start from that baseline, then the world opens up. So he was a Ngalama man. But then, of course, and that's why we've got those 4 methodologies. In the data collection and gathering, we've got to build all those protections, the rules, all of that sort of stuff at the outset. And you did design that with the knowledge holder. So, end of the day, our ways of transmitting knowledge, there is a holder of that knowledge or who's responsible. And their job is to pass that on into the future to the right people under the right circumstances. So that's the knowledge holding. Language itself has become a little bit politicised in that some people use it as a weapon. Oh, we can speak language, you can't, you're not Aboriginal, that sort of thing. And that's why our approach in Ngalia is to say, well, we've only got 3 speakers. We're closely linked to Nganyadjara and Mamutjitji, so there's about 70 to 80 degree connection. Fortunately, those 2 languages, Mamutjitji is part of the Murdu languages, and Nganyadjara is the Central Lands. There's a lot of first language speakers there. Our language, we're just saying, well, we're not going to be protective, exclusive, we want to share it. And this is the secret, that those who are going, oh, we're going to hold this language tight and no one else can get access to it. The secret is that you draw a line from Port Hedland across to Cairns. Everything under that line is one language family. It's the Palmer Nyunga, Palmer in Queensland. And you've seen in that little story, there's, I think that was Wiradjuri getting spoken in that video. Very similar to Ngalia, very similar to Nyunga, because we're all part of the same family. When you get north into, the Kimberley and Arnhem Land, Cape York, that's where some languages up there just only occur in that area. So yeah, there are sensitivities around it. Link it back to the United Nations Decade of Indigenous Languages, but also the role of language centres. So this is one of the other agenda. I've got multiple agendas, as you can see. The other agenda, though, is that language centres are there. They're working. They do some amazing work on very, very limited funding. So here I'm a business. I got business networks. I go and say, okay, well, let's see how we can work with this elder. We can provide some resourcing to document and capture that language. And so the business model that I'm trying to build is one that I don't have to give a return on capital back to the investors. They might get their return, in their marketing budget or their sustainability goals. So they're the sort of thinking that needs to go into it. So as the Minister points out, that's like scary. So you lost, what is it?
Yeah, about almost $7 billion. Yeah. $7
billion while you're sitting down working out the budget. So there's other ways to fund it, and that's what we're getting at. So it's really good to see, the various people in the rooms. It's about bringing business, community, government and energy and excitement about a future. That's really what we need to do. So, long-winded answer, Donna, but it's important that if there's someone there who's willing to share, let's give them that opportunity to do so. And then hopefully we'll shift the dial on my precious people to sort of start thinking differently as well. Goodness. Did I do a good impersonation? All right. Anyone else? We're probably winding up. But last say, anyone? Go high. You want to have a last say?
No, I think great information. I think from as probably I can't say the only Aboriginal cybersecurity company in Western Australia, but also being part of Waalitj Hub, I see a lot of moving parts. But I think yesterday, if I recall, our great uncle and Dingo said we've got to have a crack at it, right? And that's what you've done. The other great thing that I see in terms of what you're setting out is there'd be kids potentially working in the labs in remote town where you're creating capability and capacity of digital skills, right? And one thing I speak to, as a Indigenous tech head, I speak about, there was a time where digital literacy or skill was a good to have. We are in times where it's a must. Without it, survival is hard. And if we don't focus it through investments like this, you know, and other programs, we'll potentially have a 21 closing the gap target in 5 years' time, where digital skill would be a big gap between Indigenous community and the Australian population. Right? And I think this is a great way to build that capacity and capability in remote towns like the coalfields, right? Where that is the value that's being driven, besides getting the stories out there, besides getting the learning of language. So great supporter, and as part of the foundation, we'll continue supporting you in the journey itself.
Oh, good, thank you. So, there, see, tick one sponsor. No, good, thanks, Chico. So we have some delicious refreshments out there that have been prepared by Kate and her family. So thank you very much, because Kado forgot. But yeah, no, thank you everyone for attending, and please do keep in touch.